Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Centric. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season 5 premiere of You. Great season premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode. So let's break it down. So it's been 3 years since the season 4 finale, and Joe is able to have his name again, kind of his pseudo life, while he's kind of thrown into the limelight, which is so interesting considering he's a man that's always creeped in the shadows, and now to be fair, he's always dated like very kind of public-ish figures, whether it be a Beck, whether it be a Love. These were prominent enough figures, not in the biggest scale, but they also came from prominent families. But he always still kind of hid himself away. Obviously, he's on a so much bigger scale because he's part of this it power couple, here in New York. So you think that come with its drawbacks, which I'm sure we haven't even begun to see the drawbacks to that. I mean, it's interesting considering Joe has been living this life for the past 3 years, and there's kind of been no problem because the whole point is him and Kate are keeping each other, for the most part, good. And so anytime Joe's got those urges riling up, Kate kind of brings him back down. But also Kate is Kate, and she doesn't need him to fight her battle. She can fight her own battle on her own war front because she has the power and position to do that. But Joe is trying to put all his proclivities to the side, bury them, because he's happy. He's got Kate by his side. He's got a wonderful woman that loves him and accepts him for who he is and tries to make sure he stays on a good. And she also made sure that he got his son back. And now Kate's playing the role of a mom, too. And she's done such a great job. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting developments on that front, or just kind of everything seems perfect for Joe, and you're like, okay, so how is everything going to come tumbling down? I should also know, I have not seen a lick, I have not seen a frame of any trailer, so I have zero idea what to even begin thinking about where this season will end up going. But yeah, Kate's kind of making enemies left and right because she's basically overcompensating for the blood money and the terrible stuff that her family's done, which she's done as part of her family's company, and she's trying to overcompensate by doing extreme good. So it's like, hey, all the profits we were making, I'm gonna take 20% of them, and we're gonna put them towards some good causes, which a lot of high-ranking people in her company do not appreciate. Said person being her CFO, her half-twin sister Reagan, played by Anna Camp, who also plays Reagan's twin sister Maddie, which I love that for Anna Camp being able to play twins. I was like, oh, that's got to be fun. But also her uncle Bob, and then there's also her half brother Teddy, which I was like, I had to look it up to make sure, because I was like, that looks like that's the actor who played Luke in She-Hulk, and it is. The actor's name is Griffin Matthew. I was like, oh, that's so cool. I was like, it looked like Luke. I just couldn't tell. But yeah, and he seems to be the only decent person because he grew up outside of his family. In fact, he only came into Kate's life recently when Kate found out about him and brought him into the fold. And so he's one of the only people in the family that's loyal to Kate. Well, other than Uncle Bob initially, because it's like, well, he's the only person that supported her, So, but either way, when it's a world of vultures and terrible people, it's kind of nice having a Teddy on your side. It's also interesting, too, and this was something that kind of crossed my mind. To be fair, we're only in the first episode, but I was like, this seems like this might be a small supporting cast this season. Who knows? So they'll probably expand upon that. Obviously, you got a lot of people thrown at you at once in season 4. So, all those in Kate's circle and range and everything. So it was quite a few handful of characters. But because I feel like season 1 probably had the least, smallest supporting cast. It's the first season and everything too. But it's 3 and 4 had the bigger ones. But I want to say 4 definitely feels like it had the biggest supporting cast. But once again, it's just interesting because it seems where it's season 4 was all about the friend circle. This 5th season seemed to be kind of more about the family, all manipulative people, kind of Reagan does not hide her hate for Kate because she, usurped her as CEO. Who knows what their feelings were towards each other prior to that. I mean, to be fair, it's kind of I even love that tit for tat she has with Teddy later on in the episode, where it's just oh yeah, my dad came home with a hard on and mom couldn't be found, so he found your mom with a vacuum, and he's like, ooh, cute. Now, where was your mom at the time? And is apparently sniffing at. I was like, that's actually a really sassy and really good retort to that. Because even Joe was like, yeah, he's the byproduct of their dad hooking up with the quote unquote help. So it's like cool, like the not so subtle racism of it all. Joe, in his inner monologues calling that out. But my point was, before I went on that diatribe, is I don't know how much Reagan really hated Kate. She was kind of like seemed to be the favorite regardless. Like their dad put a lot of time and attention into Kate because he saw so much of himself in her and what she could be if she just kind of got rid of some of that pesky moral compass. And then you have Maddie, who apparently her and Kate used to be tight until, because they both joined in over, hey, we both have to deal with dad's abuse, verbal abuse and stuff, like emotional abuse. But ever since then, it's been her kind of doing everything she can to torpedo Kate, specifically very blatantly and openly flirting with Joe. So that's fascinating. I'm wondering, like, if that's interesting to know that Maddie didn't always hate Kate, but kind of does now for whatever reason. We haven't really gotten to the nitty gritty of. I guess with their dad going, they don't have that commonality anymore. Maddie just feels like, oh, she's on her own island. Whereas like before, she felt like she had a connect. I mean, we don't really know what her relationship with Reagan is either. I mean, and none of them, with the exception of Kate, has a relationship with Teddy, and Teddy just tolerates the other siblings, but obviously loves and supports Kate and has her back always. So. And then you have Joe, who is kind of the arm candy type of situation that, obviously it's like Bob kind of treats him like crap. And Reagan kind of looks at him as like that weirdo creepo. They don't really bring too much up of Joe's past because it's like, that's the creepy guy Kate's with, and that's about it. So, like I said, Joe keeping his proclivities under guard. And like I said, life seems perfect until there's word about an article coming out about the pipelines. And for Joe, it's like, no, if Kate finds out about this, she'll come crumbling down, because that has been like her biggest kryptonite. That is that terrible thing in her past that she tries so hard to go above and beyond being a better person to try and tip the scales and the judgment scales and backing into the black rather than the red when it comes to doing good versus bad. And Joe's like worried that if this comes out, she'll like believe the terrible things about herself. So, he steps back a little bit into his fold of like investigating, and he's trying to look into it, because initially him and Teddy immediately think, well, it's got to be Reagan, but Reagan doesn't know what's this being said. So he goes to Maddie thinking like maybe she knows something about it. And I'm not sure on the clarity on that. Like there were text messages with Uncle Bob, because it turns out Uncle Bob was the one orchestrating all of this, because he was trying to basically throw Kate under the bus so they can basically swoop in and swipe control of the company. And they were trying to use a no confidence approach to take the company from her. And that's why I was like, it seemed like Maddie was involved in that conversation, but once again, she's kind of out for Kate. So it's like Maddie knew about this and not Reagan, but Reagan probably would have found that after the fact. I guess other than just taking down Kate, what would have Maddie have gotten other than that? That might be all she needed. That's all the satisfaction she needed, just to take Kate down, or maybe there were other rewards that she may have garnished from that. But maybe Maddie wasn't as in the know about it. There were those text messages, but it could just been a thing of, I can't remember. I think he was saying there was going to be a meeting, but maybe because that's not something that, I guess that technically got wrapped up with everything that Joe does to wrap everything up with Uncle Bob at the end. I guess that might have all got encapsulated in that, with his mass response with the notice of yeah, this was all made up, retract the story. So I guess that's why you don't have to worry about Maddie, because I would feel like she would still be a loose end in some regard, but without Uncle Bob, it all falls apart, and it's just kind of it falls on deaf ears, and Maddie can't really do anything on her own. But like I said, maybe some of that end bit with Uncle Bob was enough to be well, no, we all, that also snuffs out Maddie's part in all of it as well. Despite having a 3-year hiatus from it, it's like riding a bike, which I think is ironic for me to always use that example, because that's not an apt example for me, because I never learned to ride a bike. It is what it is. But the fact is that Joe, despite not being on it for a little bit, he kind of immediately gets in the groove and feel of things when he's like pretending to get drunk and drink drinks with Maddie so she'll let her guard down. It's like, oh, you're so slimy and so good at it, Joe. But eventually he ends up telling Kate, but Kate doesn't appreciate it. It's like, whoa, you're hiding this from me. Like, because for her, it's like the moment she sees what Joe's doing, she's like, you're kind of falling back into old habits, but also like, I don't need you to protect me. I can figure this out on my own, especially because Uncle Bob has always been by her side and always supported her. So it's like, there's no way he's trying to like orchestrate something like that behind my back. So Joe goes and deals with Uncle Bob himself, and then Kate traps Joe's phone, which I think is actually kind of sweet when you look at her phone. Like the family thing is her, Joe, and Henry, which makes sense. But it's also kind of sad. It's like, oh, I mean, I guess you have different groups, so that's like your main family group versus like I'm sure Teddy's in a different group, but it's like I'm sure he's not in the same group as your other siblings, but still it's just kind of like, oh, it's kind of sweet, but you're also like, oh, throw Teddy in that as well, because I mean, to be fair, Uncle Bob wasn't in that little thing either, but once again, it's a very specific family group of this is my immediately family group of me, my husband, and our son. She ends up tracking down Joe, and the moment she gets to Mooney's, I was like, she's going to be in the wrong place while Joe's doing his thing. And then her opening the door to find him on a typewriter, I was like, I did not expect that. But hey, good on Joe for rather than acting on his urges, I'm going to type it out, which I immediately like, that's stupid of you. The issue is you're typing it out is great because you're not acting upon those urges, so that's fine and dandy. The stupid part is you're keeping them. Do not keep them. That's going to come back to bite you in the ass. Someone is going to find those and they're going to link it together with some of the stuff that you've done so far. Especially because you wrote about murdering Uncle Bob and all of a sudden Uncle Bob's suddenly dead, death by suicide. It looks a little suspicious, Or that might play in the long run at the end of the series where it's like, oh yeah, like he compiles all that into some fictional novel by changing some names here and there. I mean, he wrote it all on a typewriter, so you probably have to, that'd be a whole hassle to kind of change some things and stuff. I don't know. I just feel like that's going to be a massive mistake, and especially because we're getting introduced to that plot point this early in the season. Either that's going to trickle out pretty soon this season, or that's just going to be something at the tail end that comes back to just sideswipe him. I don't know. The moment he kept the pages, I was like, that's stupid, especially with the whole Bronte storyline with her in that place. Is like, why would you keep them, and also in a place where you're now hiring her later on to be there? I'm like, that's stupid. It's so interesting because he talks about Bob being a blind spot. He's usually on top of these things, but Bob was a blind spot he didn't see coming, and it's like he got sideswiped by Bob. Bronte's going to be that person because he feels like a connection where it's like, oh, Bronte reminds you of the former you himself, and it's like he's letting that blind him. Where it's just like, yes, he loves Kate, but he's going to have a little. I mean, it's almost kind of like the beginning of the love situation. You were kind of having an affair with the neighbor, and that kind of played out nastily in that situation. I don't think Kate would go that far, but your life is great and all that, and you're about to blow it up potentially with the whole Bronte of it all. But doesn't seem like there's anything there necessarily because she knows who Joe is because Joe's all over the place. Prince Charming and all that in the magazines and stuff. But either way, I kind of went on my massive diatribe. Going back to just the point of, hey, he's typing it up and that's good, but then Kate's still pissed because she's like, well, it's kind of grotesque that you're doing this. And even he's like thinking to himself, shouldn't you be grateful that I'm not acting upon it? I'm just writing it down. That I shouldn't get some praise for that? And it's like, I think you should. But for her, she's still under the impression, oh, you killed just out of necessity, which she's like, well, yeah, I did this and this and this and this. And the ones I told you about out of necessity. But it's like, well, you're just a serial killer. You don't acknowledge it. You don't want Kate to acknowledge it, which that brings up the whole irony later on. He's like, oh no, Kate accepts all of me. It's like, well, no, she accepts like you doing things out of necessity. Your manipulative view on things to try and deem the things that you've done as you've always retroactively. Well, you begin with being like, well, this was necessary when it wasn't necessary, and you'll retroactively be like, well, I was a victim in this situation. I had to act the way I did. It was in defense. Yada yada yada. It's always excuses to make yourself out to be the hero of the story rather than the villain of the story. Whether you are making yourself to be the victim of the story when in actuality you're the perpetrator. So. But yeah, like I said, for Kate's perspective, it's like, oh, it's kind of gross that you're like fantasizing, and it's like he even admits like, yeah, it does make me feel exhilarated. So, but Kate eventually confronts Uncle Bob herself, and he admits everything, that he's like, you've basically been weak. The version of you that dealt with the whole Reese situation and covering up, if that person was running the company, but this shell of a person that being in London has doled you, and if you try to fight me, I will basically ruin you and make all this stuff come to the surface. So it's no longer just Kate being, put under the spotlight with the story, because he's like, oh, it's going to come out and we're basically going to snatch this company from you. Sorry, kid, but this is what it's got to be done, because your father left this company to you because he expected you to have that fight in you. He expected you to have that dog in you, but you don't. You've kind of been hamstrung and whimpered, and you're a simp of a husband, And now Joe's being thrown in a mix by the whole Reese of it all. So it's like, yeah, we kind of have to shut Bob up. And Kate's like, you got to do it. He's like, what do you want me to do? She's like, you know what I want you to do. So, and for Joe, it's just like, oh, you are giving me permission to wow the fuck out. And I'm about to do it in the very Joe fashion. And I love that when he does the thing, he's just like, oh, don't have to worry about the security cameras. Oh, wait, the door's unlocked. Oh, wow, you're passed out drunk. It's like, Jesus, Bob, you're making this so easy, which I would have thought was suspicious. I'm like, is this too easy? Your first time back in your four-way, like, this is you in your bag, and it's this easy? Like, you've taken breaks, and you've proven not to be rusty. Those instincts just don't go away for you. But I'm like, is it really just going to be like this? Yeah, you choked him with a lasso, framed it to be like a suicide with a note, and everything seems honky-dory. But Joe's takeaway is, oh my God, Kate accepts me for me. She knew what I did, and she was okay with it. It's like, no. Yes, she was okay with it because she thought this is our only option. So it's just a thing of Kate kind of justifying Joe's bad behavior, because no, it's for our family. But that's the thing with Joe. You give him an inch, she's going to take a mile. But both of you are not great for each other, because you both have bad sides of yourself. Whereas like Kate's worried, like, I could so easily be bad, but it's like not in the same way that Joe can. But I mean, I guess we haven't really seen firsthand like how really, really, really bad Kate can be and can, do and all that. So, but then we also have the whole Mooney building. It's the bookstore, but the entire building of it all, where we meet Bronte, a woman breaking in there, which I thought was suspicious, which I'm like, you should be looking at that a little more closely. But she says, like, right, the books being in there, she doesn't want them to go to waste, so she sneaks in, grabs some, borrows them, and didn't even admit, oh, I've kind of broken in here multiple times. This time you caught me isn't just the first time I've done it. And obviously giving an alias in Bronte, not even giving her real name, but Joe likes her because of, once again, she reminds him of who he was, especially when you think about this is kind of everything coming full circle. He's at the start again, where the series started with him at this bookstore in season 1, and here we are in the final season, back here at the bookstore, passing the bookstore onto kind of like, it's almost like he's the Mooney in this situation, and Bronte's kind of like the him, which I'm wondering, is that going to be how this situation plays out? Like, will Joe kind of mentor the future him, which I don't know. Once again, I have my thoughts about like already how this might all end and play out. But once again, just the first episode, still got 9 episodes left for this to take its interesting twists, turns, and developments. But Joe offers her the job, and now it's like, okay, but he also has the basement area where they, he kept his victims along with the books. So you're like, okay. Ugh. And he's just talking about like, right, now I get to be all of me. I get to merge and marry the old me with the new me and just get to be me, because Kate accepts all of this. It's like, you say that, but you're going to hide this part of yourself from Kate most likely as you continue to do what you're doing. But he's like, yeah, who cares if a couple assholes go missing? I'm doing kind of a service to the world. So yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see where this season takes us. There's also like the big, X factor in this, all of this, and that was Marianne. Because it's like, if I remember correctly, Joe thinks she's dead because they faked her death last season. So she's with her daughter, but did she saw the end result of everything of like Joe plastered everywhere? To be fair, it's been 3 years. She hasn't done anything, so she probably doesn't want to take the chance of ruining all of that by like coming out and going after Joe, or she could have been spending these past 3 years. Some of it, she could have been like letting it go, let him do whatever he wants to. Or maybe it's a thing of the moment she finds out he's back to his old games again. It's like, she's probably going to somewhat fill the Candace role a little bit. Maybe she'll have more success than Candace did, because Candace like stepped into it again, and that didn't last as long as you thought it would. That whole ordeal. It's also interesting too because like Tati Gabrielle, the actress who plays her, obviously like I don't know like what the production schedule is like this versus like The Last of Us. Plus she's also working on Naughty Dog's game Intergalactic. I mean, I don't know how much of that is still like, are they even at that process now? I mean, obviously they did enough for a trailer. Once again, there's other stuff she's working on, and I don't know how that lines up with like, I mean, to be fair, maybe they just didn't write her a lot in this season, if at all. So that's just the thing of like, once again, having known nothing about this season, I'm curious, will we see her? I'd assume we would, because that's a major X factor still out there that I'm like, I think that'd be in play, and I feel like she could be the X factor that comes in and kind of ruins everything. Might even be tied into the Bronte of it all, whereas like Bronte being here might have been a long running setup. I'm in my conspiracy bag right now. We'll ultimately have to wait to see where the season takes us as we go forward to the next episode. I'm very, very interested to see where this takes us as we go through the final season of You. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.